Hey everyone, and thanks again for tuning in to Nitrorcx tutorial channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to maintain and rebuild your ball differential, specifically on the Mad Speed car. First thing you want to do is probably inspect your Mad Speed differentials. I have a Mad Speed right here. Basically, you want to inspect it. Signs of a bad differential are loss of power to the front and rear wheels, or overall just poor performance. Things you can do to check it is manually inspect it and check it. I like to spin the differentials. If you'll notice, if I spin the back wheels, front wheels are spinning. I like to put my hand on the spur, prevent that from spinning, so I'm only checking the rear diffs. When you spin your rear diff, if you spin one wheel, the other wheel should spin in the same direction. If you spin it and one wheel is freewheeling, that's a bad sign. Also, if you spin it and it seems really loose, that could mean it needs a little bit of grease. Or if it's really grimy, like if you spin it and you hear a lot of grinding sounds, or if it like pops, that could mean you had flat spots on the balls inside, or the shims are bad. So it's always a good idea to pick them up and inspect it, give them a quick turn, and see how they're performing. So once you do that check, you're going to go ahead and get into the vehicle and tear them out. We do have two videos on how to take out the front differential and the rear differential on the Mad Speed, so I won't be showing you guys how to pull them out today, but I will be showing you the next step is once you pull them out and you get to the differential, how to take them apart and rebuild them. So let's get to it, guys. Let's go over the things you'll need to do this maintenance and rebuild. You'll need a 2mm wrench, you'll need some diff ball grease, and you'll need a rebuild kit. I opted for the full rebuild kit, Exceed RC part number NH3061, that comes with all the diff balls, thrust washer, springs, bearings, and the nut that tightens everything down. If you don't want to buy the whole complete kit, we do sell the balls separately, the springs separately, and the bolt and nut separately. I like to get the whole kit just to make sure I replace everything. And that's pretty much all the parts you need. Oh, one thing I do want to mention is have a cloth out or have a space set up, because nothing sucks more than losing a diff ball mid-rebuild and you're crawling around the floor looking for that ball. So let's get started. Alright, so this is the differential as it looks once you pull it out from the differential casing. I like to remove the bearings. Just put them aside. You can also check your bearings. It's a good idea to check them. They're still running pretty smooth. Set those aside, and now you're looking at the differential, basically the outdrive cups and the center part that holds the balls. If you look inside, you'll see a socket for where your 2mm wrench goes. Basically stick that in there, loosen it, and your diff will come apart. Right, once you loosen it, pull it apart. You're looking at the main gear with all the balls inside of it. Now, as I mentioned before, if it's if you turn your diff or if you turn your wheel and it's real grimy or clicky, you could have flat spots on your balls. Probably want to switch out the balls, and you can check the shims for any abnormal wear. As you can see, a groove on the shim, that's where the balls ride. If that groove is really deep, you probably want to change out your shims. As you can see, this one here, it's not too bad, but I'm going to go ahead and replace everything to show you guys anyways. So first thing I like to do is just take off the shim, inspect it. There's that shim right there, set that aside. Got another one on the other side. Pull that off, set that aside. Remember, there's bearings in here. You can always replace those if they feel grimy. These ones still feel nice and smooth, so I'm going to leave those in there. Same for on the other side. There's another bearing in there. Check this for smoothness, check for griminess. If it's smooth, don't need to replace them. I'll set that aside. Back to the gear with the balls on it. I'm going to go ahead and change out those balls and show you guys how it's done. So let's pop them out. Alright, once those are out, move those aside here. And grab your rebuild pack, open it up. Don't have any scissors here, so I'm just going to have to open it. Those are your thrust washers. I'll show you where those go. Those are the new shims. As you can see, compared to the old shims, there's no groove where the balls ride, so that's real new. It's normal for the groove to be there. It's going to happen. As long as it's nice and smooth and it's not all messed up, you can reuse them. And the new balls are on the cloth right here. These are the new ones. Make sure you have your grease. This spring is actually, it goes in the cup. That puts tension on the whole unit. Basically that's what gives your whole diff the tightness and looseness. That goes in here. I'll show you guys how to get to that. This is one of the sides of the outdrive cups. Basically just push that out. I don't know if you can see the spring in there, but let me try and pull it out for you. Alright, so I'm trying to get that out. Looks like, let me grab this bobby pin right here, see if I can slide it out. There it is. Alright, so in the longer side of the diff cup, you have your spring, and you have this in there. This holds the nut, the new nut. I'll just move that aside because I'm going to reuse the nut. I'll put the new spring in there. And on the other side over here, on the other cup, if you take out that nut, or I mean the screw, get that bobby pin. Inside is your thrust washer. Don't know if camera guy can get good focus on it, but inside is this piece right here. That's your thrust washer. Make sure those are nicely greased and maintained. And get that out of the package. Basically, in that cup this is what you're looking at. It's basically a bearing that's in 3 pieces. That's the center piece. These are the 2 outer pieces. Just remember that there's a lip and a groove on it. You want to make sure the groovy part is where the balls sit in. Make sure the balls are sitting in that groovy section. And that goes inside the diff ball cup, the short end. Since my thrust washers are still good, I'm going to reuse them. But if you were to rebuild them, you want to drop this side down in first. Drop that in first with the groove facing up. Drop your thrust balls in and drop the last cap down so that it's clamping down on it. So I'll move that aside. Drop this back in. Drop the spring back in. Drop the nut back in, make sure it's facing the right way. Drop that back in, and let's go ahead and rebuild or put the balls back in. I like to give it some grease first so that the balls don't fall all over the place when I'm trying to put them back in. You don't need a lot of grease here. Just kind of rub it in. And just start placing your balls in there. I like to push them in a little so they're in the groove. Whoops, one came out. Alright, got the new balls in. Grab your cup. Put the new washer on. I like to put a little grease there too, just to hold it on. Now guys, there's flat ends of the washer. Make sure you line that up. These shims should not spin on the diff cup. Should be locked on. Do the same for the other side. I like to rub a little grease on there. Make sure it's nicely locked on. And just bolt it back together. Oops, I already have the screw in there. What am I doing? One thing you want to do is make sure that nut's pushed all the way down so that your screw grabs it while you're tightening down. Alright, for tightness, basically I keep turning until I feel it stop. Don't force it. Once you feel it stop, I like to back it out maybe a quarter to half a turn. And there you have it. Check operation, check for smoothness, make sure there's no griminess or grittiness. Grittiness is bad, that means there's dirt in there. Just keep spinning it. And once it's smooth, just drop it back in your vehicle and you're done. Pretty simple process. And a good thing to do is, once after you drop it in, break in the diff. Just don't go out there and just start smashing right away. Maybe, when it's installed, look over to the car here. When it's installed, maybe you can lift it up just on one wheel and gas it, not at full throttle, but at slow speed just to break in the diff. When you'll notice that one wheel will be stopped, the other wheel will be spinning, and that's a good way to give it a nice break in and get a nice smooth groove on your shims inside the diff. Alright guys, so that sums up the diff maintenance and rebuild. We changed out the balls, changed out the shims, checked the tightness, greased it all up, and made sure it's working all properly. Couple of things I want to mention is that we sell one-way differentials and solid axles. Solid axles, basically no balls, it's a solid axle. I actually like to use that in my drift car, but those of you that don't want to purchase a solid axle, you can basically crank down on the front diff. Make sure you don't go too tight so you don't damage the balls, but crank down on that front diff, make it a lot tighter, and try drifting around like that. You'll probably notice you'll have a lot more front end authority. You can pull out of those extreme angles a little more. And if you don't like it, you can always loosen it up and revert back to your original diff settings. So really, it's all about playing around with your diff settings, diff tightness. It really affects corner entry and exit. So really play around with it, see what's comfortable for you, and see what suits your driving style. So anyways, thanks for watching guys, and stay tuned for more videos on Nitrorcx.com. See you guys later.